everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. It's about time we start a new project, wouldn't you think? So everybody say hello to Project 8ball. This one's going to be pretty ambitious, and it's going to have kind of a theme or a plan or I don't know, some rules. We're going to do something interesting with this, so let me tell you all about it. You may recall last summer we bought this 68 Ford for parts and did a little video on it. Well, some things have changed since then, and that sprung a little idea in my mind, and well, here we are. So anyway, let me bring you up to speed on this. This car popped up twice last summer. The first time I missed it, the second time I got it. Now, the caveat with this car is all it had was keys. There was no ownership, no engine, no transmission, no exhaust, no brakes. But as you can see, it's got a decent top on it. It's all one color. And the inside of it is relatively intact. I bought it for a few reasons. It's got a 9-inch rear end. It's got disc brakes. And I figured, hey, for parts, for what I paid for it, you couldn't go wrong. So anyway, I said, man, too bad this thing doesn't have an ownership. It's not really that bad of a car. Well, it needs a lot of stuff. We'll get to that later. So the first thing I noticed was the keys. There was a little paper key tag with a name and a phone number on it. So I said, huh, that's interesting. I didn't really feel like just phoning the phone number out of the blue. So I went and I ordered the used vehicle information package from the Ministry of Transport. And when it came back, sure enough, the last registered owner was the same name that was on the key tag. Like, you know, the ones they put on it at a service garage, right? When you drop your car off. So I said, okay, let me see if I can find this guy. So it took me about 30 seconds, and I found him on Facebook. I mean, the detective work now, the old car detective work, is a lot easier than it used to be back in the day. So with that, I sent the guy a message. I said, hey, man, I have this black 68 Ford, and I have no ownership for it, and you are the last registered owner of it. So the fellow said, yep, that was my car. I said, can you help me get an ownership? He says, no, I don't have to help you. I have it right here sitting on my desk. So anyway, long story short, I think what happened was he bought this car somewhere, and he took it in there somewhere to get it certified, and they lifted it up on a lift and phoned him up and said, buddy, this car is junk. There's nothing left of the frame. So I guess he said, all right, whatever. I don't know what happened to the car after that, but somehow the engine and transmission got separated from it, and it started changing hands with no paperwork, right? So anyway, whatever. He, great on him. I told him I owe him a lunch. He put the ownership in the mail. He signed it and sent it to me. So then all I had to do was go and get a used car appraisal. And then I went down to the license plate joint and got an ownership for it. So I now have an ownership for it in my name. So that's step one. Now, step two. The frame in this car is destroyed. These were bad, these cars, bad. The torque boxes rot out right behind the front wheels here. They rot out here. They rot out behind the back wheels and in between. Pretty much from here forward, the frames are generally pretty good. From the front wheels back, they're junk. So that was why I just said, you know what, I'll just part this thing out. And then one day, you'll see it's famous in my junkyard videos, the green 67 LTD that showed up in Kenny U-Pole up the road here. Well, here it is. They wouldn't sell me the whole car because once it's in the junkyard, it's in the junkyard. So I cut it down, left everything else, and they gladly sold me this. They called it a frame and a floor, whatever. We'll go over that when I get to the accounting part of the project. So anyway, we've got it. This frame is really, really, really nice. It needs a little bit of work, but nothing. Like look at how clean this thing is. I'll right now I'm gonna insert the little bit of video I made the day I went and got this. I'll see you in a minute. Our project needs a frame and a floor pan. So here we are in the boneyard. We've got this nice clean 67 LTD. It's got a pretty decent frame in it, and the floor pan is also not too bad. So, well, this car is going to disappear today. First thing we got to do is get the nose off of it, and then we're going to take all 4 doors and the trunk lid. That's all the bolt-on panels removed. Now I'm going to start emptying everything out of it, out of the trunk. We'll get the interior emptied out, and I'll take out the seat. Then we'll start cutting. You can see there, look at that trunk floor. Isn't it nice? Wow. Now we'll work on the interior. The floor is maybe a little punkier than I was hoping it would be, but that's all right. What I really need is from here back, and you can see that's all really good in this one, so that's fine. Now it's time to start cutting. Pretty much done now. Well, we made it. It's on the trailer. Wow, that saved me a lot of work. I just happened to catch the fellow with the loader, and he scooped it up and dropped it on there for me. Pretty cool, eh? You can still hear bits of the original black paint on the frame. It does have a little bit of punk in it, just right along here, but that's easy to fix. I'm not worried about that at all. As you can see in here, there's no engine and no transmission. Luckily, it looks like they were in a hurry when they took it out. You can see they left behind the shift linkage. They left the power steering pump. The alternator is still sitting here, still attached to the wiring. In the trunk, I found the drive shaft, the exhaust manifolds, the transmission cross member, the rad hoses, all little stuff to put it together. So all that was really missing was the actual long block of the engine and the transmission itself. So I said, what are we going to do about that? I've got a 302 block, like a bare block over in the shed, and I've got a couple of C4s kicking around. And from reading the information on the door jamb on the body tag, this car had a 302 and a C4. That's how it was born. So I said, okay, we can do that. But piecing together the 302 from my bare block was going to be a pain in the neck and get expensive. I looked around. There were some complete 302s kicking around. Nick from the Real Guy Garage even brought me we don't even know what it is. It's a 221 or a 260, really, really old. But unfortunately, it had the 5-bolt bell housing. I think I could have probably worked with that. I may have been able to get a 5-bolt bell housing for one of my C4s and use it. But the worst problem with it is it's stuck, and I pulled the plugs out and stuck the bore scope down it, and one cylinder has just literally been like filled with water. So unfortunately, even though that engine's got a rebuilder tag on it, it's overboard and everything, it's junk. I stumbled across this at the auction. It's a 351. It's a 351 Windsor, pardon me. And it's completely dressed. It's got a Duraspark distributor in it. It's got a coil. It's got an alternator. It's got a steering pump. All the pulleys are on it. Manifolds. It's got, look at this. An Edelbrock Performer 351 intake on it. It even came with this lifting plate. And it's got what I believe to be a rebuilt C6 on the back. I know it's a C6. And I'm guessing it's rebuilt because of the paint job on it. People don't take their own transmission out and paint it orange. Rebuilders usually paint them, right? And another nice touch on this, it's got the the shaft mounted neutral safety switch, because the steering column mounted ones in those old Fords are a bloody disaster. They never work right. So that'll be good. We can just wire that in and we'll have no trouble at all with our neutral safety. It's got manifolds on it. I'm not sure if they'll work in that chassis. The problem is I've got the manifolds off the 302 that were in the car, but they're kind of restrictive on this. Anyway, they'll choke this engine down bad. But I think these are truck manifolds because I see it's got a truck oil pan on it, so I assume it came out of a truck. We'll see how that works. I've got another pair of 351 manifolds around here somewhere that we could use, or I picked up these old 350, these GT 350 Shelby repop tri-wise off Marketplace. I got them almost, like, I don't know, for cheap, $50 or something. So I've got marked down somewhere what I paid for them, but worst case, we'll try those. And here I've got some different air cleaners. I got a pair of chrome valve covers for it. We'll go over all of this when we get back to the shop. There's also no exhaust on it at all. So I've got a couple of options. I've got the complete manifold to bumper duals that were on that 67 LTD, but that's like a factory original system for a big block. I'd rather not cut that up. But what I did find in the junkyard was a perfect, at least from the cat's back. So, you know, from under the driver's feet back, H-pipe dual exhaust system off a Crown Vic police car. I'm pretty sure this should work well for what we're going to do. The 60s Fords are set up very similar to this, with a full perimeter frame and the fuel tank standing upright in just behind the rear axle. The only difference is this one had a Watts linkage, and ours, of course, has a track bar. So I may have to, I think the end of the track bar is on this side. We may have to dink around with this tailpipe a little bit to get it on, but I'm pretty sure it's going to work. These mufflers are quite interesting. I kind of like them. And it's good. See, we got all the hangers and stuff. I don't know if we'll be able to use them, but it's the same price whether you take them or not, so take them. Most of the top side of it, I showed you before in the first video that I made about it. I will put a link to that video so you can kind of see that. But what we're going to do now is get the creeper and the light and go underneath it. And it's very scary under there. Here you can see the patches on the frame. You can see damage to the fuel tank here. That's from some tow truck guy with a wheel lift. The other side's gotten it too. This isn't the first one of these tanks I've seen destroyed by a wheel lift. Oh, well, what are you going to do? It's got the old shocks with the helper springs on, but they're not doing much helping. The back of this thing is pretty droopy. We'll have to see if we can do something about that. The floor, the back floor sheet metal and everything is just destroyed. There's nothing left of it, but we'll take everything out of that old LTD floor pan and just drop it right into this one. No problem at all. Somebody put all new brake lines on it. Got a 9-inch rear end in it. We'll see if we can give it a read and see what the heck it is. I'll pull that tag off and we'll check it out. My guess it's a 300 one-wheel peeler, but you never know. You can see they've just put a piece of angle iron down each side of it. It's a mess. But we'll fix it all up. We're going to start with another frame and just go from there. It's not that bad. Get all this scuzz cleaned up and a coat of paint on it. It'll look just fine. The rockers aren't too bad. Needs a little patching over here on this side. These cars, the old Fords, the rockers always were pretty decent on them. I'm not The frames would just disintegrate, but the rockers would hold up. I'm not too sure why, but just how it was. And now we have a plan or a theme or however we want to call it with this car. We're not going to go whole hog doing a rotisserie restoration on it. What I want to do is demonstrate how somebody with some resourcefulness, some perseverance, and luck plays a huge part in this, can put together a car that you could drive to cruise night for cheap. My goal for this project is going to be to keep it under $5,000 Canadian. Okay, so for those of you, our viewers on the south side of the border, that's about $3,500 your money. And then I think I can do it. Like I said, you have to be resourceful. You have to get lucky once in a while, and you have to. I don't know. It kind of all came together, right? I had a few strokes of luck. As we get into the video, I'll explain it to you how we, kind of managed to find some of the stuff and whatnot. But it can be done. It can be done. You just have to be patient, right? The stuff you need, it'll eventually fall in your lap. If you needed a left door for this car, you know what? Oh, you could go running around today having a convulsion trying to find a left door and go to bed disappointed. But then all of a sudden, 3 months from now, a year from now, out of the blue, one of them will just about literally drop out of the heavens into your lap. That's how it goes. You can't try too hard. You can't push it. You just gotta let it happen. Let your higher power or your Zen or whatever it is, just bear with it. And it'll work out. Anyway, enough of that. So there's going to be some rules to this project. I've kind of got the rules laid out here. At the end of each episode of this project, I'm going to keep a running total, and I will update it at the end of each episode so we all know where we stand. Any parts that I take out of stock, like because I've got a lot of 68 Ford parts around here, but they will be assigned a reasonable, realistic, swap meet or boneyard value, right? That's only fair. Shipping on mail order parts will be included because if I didn't mail order it, I'd be burning my gas going somewhere to get it. And I'm going to keep the freebies to a minimum. So everybody has got, car guys have stuff kicking around their house. So what I'm going to do as far as freebie goes, like I'm not going to go and say, oh, look, I found 4 brand new tires in my barn. That ain't happening. But as far as freebies, I'm going to stick to accessories. The kind of stuff that everybody would have laying around their house, like some old gauges, stereo equipment, floor mats, mud flaps, accessories, that kind of stuff. If I've got a pair of 6x9 speakers kicking around in my attic and I decide to put them in here, I'll count that as a freebie. But there's going to be no hard parts like shock absorbers, things like that. Hard parts for the car will all be accounted for and assigned a value if I don't have an actual receipt for them. So here is our goal, to show that with luck, resourcefulness, and ingenuity, a decent cruise night car can happen for 5,000 Canadian, or I guess whatever the exchange rate was then, 3,800 US. Through junkyards, swap meets, and classifieds. We can do it. I'm sure we can do it. So, we've already had one stroke of luck, was finding that 67 LTD in the boneyard where we were able to get an okay frame for probably a third of the price that would have cost me to find like a really decent frame. Yes, I've got a perfect Texas frame in the shed out the back, but it ain't going in this car. I know where that's going. But we've got a frame we can work with. It needs a little work, but It's not all patches like this one. And that's where the luck comes in. But like I said, you need some luck on your side, and bear with it. It'll eventually, you will find the stuff that you need. It is out there. There's people doing all kinds of projects, and even like these cars are famous for needing a frame. And there's guys that it'll have one little hole in it this big. Oh, I need a frame. They have a convulsion, and they get a frame from Kansas or something, and they'll literally cut their frame up because it had one hole in it. You find one of those guys, and you can find a frame that you can work with, right? It's stuff like that gets us through. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, this is not going to be like a show car. We're going to have to rework these old Bondo work and patch it up as best as we can. This has got the old handmade Raymac Canadian quarter panels on it. They were for rust repair, not restoration work. But you know what? Look, the car's all one color. This thing will look sharp, man. I promise you, it's going to look sharp when we're done. It's going to be good. I got to put some pinstripes on it, and we'll get these wheels and hubcaps cleaned up, get some new tires on it. It'll look good. So here's my original worksheet that I kind of figured out how this was going to come together, and decided that yes, I can do it. Look, I made it so it worked out to exactly $5,000. And our actual worksheet, I have a neat one here. There you go. So, oops. Oh, and another rule for this project, there's nothing wrong with selling stuff that you don't need to recoup some of what you've spent, right? So we've come to the end of the first episode, and I'll draw a line across here when we're done. So this will get us to, right now, this is a lot of our major stuff, and we're up to $2,527. So basically, half of our budget we've used up already. But look, bought the car, $1,200. UVIT package, $20. The frame and everything we got from the wreckers came to $631.69 out the door. And on top of that, I rented a big Sawzall on my way there because my little one, there was no way I was going to be able to cut the body off in one day with my saw. And then here's some core returns because they charged me for the control arms on the frame. They decided they had to do that. That's fine, whatever. So I took them back some old control arms. Here's the grand total for the engine and transmission at the auction. Because I bought it at the auction, I had to put buyer's fees and sales tax on top of that. So my $425 or $450 or whatever I paid for it turned into $560. But still a bargain if it works. So that 67 Ford platform or whatever that I bought, it had a beautiful AC dash in it. So I sold that for $250. So that money goes right back in. I got, look, brake line and gas line, I got at a swap meet for $19. The 500 emblems, because they're missing, it should say Galaxie 500 on the quarter panels. It only said Galaxie. So I got those for $30. There was a factory reverb unit in the dash. Those are as rare as hen's teeth, and it actually worked. So I sold that. I got $217 for it on eBay after my fees. There's the tax appraisal that I had to get an appraisal for the sales tax before I could register it into my name. Fine. There's the ownership transfer and sales tax on my purchase price from the MTO. There's the air cleaner that we bought at the wreckers, $32.94. An ignition module. Look what they charged me for that. Rotten finks. There's the headers. I paid $50 for them used. $74 for the Crown Vic exhaust I told you about. And $40 I bought a car 351 oil pan. It's pretty banged up. Even if I just use it to make sure that the 351 fits this frame and go buy a new one, I could buy a new one at Summit Racing for $80 or something. Anyway, so that's where we are now. $2,527. So we've got $2,476 left to spend. So that's the introduction and the kind of laying out of the rules and parameters of what we want to do with this. And I hope we can do it. I'm not trying to cobble up some kind of death trap. The car, even though the outer body is packed with Bondo and not the prettiest thing to look at, it's going to be solid. It's going to be safe. It's going to be structurally good. You know, I don't want to put a piece of junk on the road. That's not what we're here for. But hey, this is so much like my first Galaxie 500 when I had when I was a kid. It had those same quarter panels on it. It was packed with just as much Bondo as this one, but it was white with a red interior, and it had a Z code 390 in it. And man, that thing would haul ass. Probably because 600 or 700 pounds of it had rotted and fallen off on the road over the years. It was a Galaxie convertible, but it weighed the same as a Maverick probably. Well, I don't know. The Bondo was pretty thick at some parts of it. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm gonna go and start looking for parts because there's a lot of parts we got to find yet. And stay tuned. This is gonna be a rip. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for tuning into our channel. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until we meet again, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.